I'm coming in hot. Coming in hot. Shoot that. Hey, why not? Yeah, coming in hot. Coming in hot. Just coming in hot.
I'm Kara Campuzano, and I started KC Creative, which is my social media management agency, August 4th of 2020. And that has been my bread and butter. That has been the support for our family. I started as a marketing consultant and doing marketing plans, and I really found that what businesses needed during the height of COVID and the pandemic was a digital presence, because a lot of them had to close their doors or the restaurants were doing takeout only. So we switched from consulting and social media to just social media management. And I had been co-working because getting work done at home with the kids at home and homeschooling was a challenge. And I'm sure every parent can attest to that. So I began co-working at Cow Co-working in downtown Salem for about a year and a half. And the previous owner approached us, I would say August or September of last year, so 2021, after co-working there for just about a year, asking if I wanted to buy the business. And that was a shock. I didn't even think our conversation was going to that. Honestly, I thought our conversation was going to be, hey, we need some social media help with our co-working space. But instead, it was a business sale opportunity. So officially on November 10th, my husband and I, November 10th of 2021, signed the papers, and we are the new owners of Cow Co-working downtown, which for those that don't know, it's been around for almost 7 years in downtown Salem. It was started by some amazing entrepreneurs and small business owners in town who created the concept, and then we get the opportunity now to share that with others. It's a shared office space, and we also have private offices there as well.
So let's go a little bit deeper on exactly how that works. Like if someone wants to come do it, who do they contact you, or is it monthly, annual? Like how does that all work to, be a part of that?
For the co-working space. Yeah, for Cow. I explain it that it's like a gym membership. So you do pay a monthly fee, and we have different levels of membership. Of course, we do have day passes. If you're just needing a place to come and work for the day, you can purchase on our website a day pass, and everything's digital. You download an app on your phone, and you have the ability to come in using digital key access. And then the other memberships are all 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and they're for a 1 month period. And
meaning it's just like a month-to-month contract.
Yeah, it's a month-to-month agreement. So our private offices, they're also month-to-month. We require a 3-month minimum. But the beauty of having a membership at our co-working spaces, it's all inclusive and there is no lease. So for these small business owners and entrepreneurs and startups who may not have that business credit needed for a lease, or who may be unsure of where their business will be in 2, 3, or 5 years that a lot of these landlords require of you, we give them an opportunity to have that month-to-month option. So it's fun. Our levels of membership almost are there for businesses, and there are different growth levels. So when I started there, I started as what we call a Flex Pass member. So it's the cheapest monthly membership option, and you can come in and use a space, but there's only certain spots that you can sit. And then the next level is dedicated desk, where literally that is your desk for the entire month, and we have some storage. And then as businesses grow and need a private office, they can move into, as long as we have one available, our private offices. And then we've even seen businesses where they've grown the number of employees that they have to where they have to leave our space and get their entire own space. And it's just fun being on the journey with them.
I as like Olga and I moved into this space and kind of last year, back when we were in that transition period, because Mike first called me like last summer and was like, yo, I'm buying this building, do you want to have, get into part of it? And I was like, yeah. And then of course, things take longer than you think, and getting it remodeled and all that kind of stuff. So Olga and I were really just like going to like Broadway Coffee a lot. But thinking about that model could be a nice, like, yeah, we know in like 3 months or in 6 months, we're going to be in a spot. But I don't want to just keep going to the coffee shop. That could be a nice, fill in for this, or just seeing, do I want office space? Or maybe I can do this from home, or maybe I can't do it from home. A temporary, like, let me just see a couple months, like, am I more productive there? Or, yeah, I mean, I could see how that could fit,
Yeah, it works really well for the people who own their own business or starting up, but also it's a fantastic space for remote workers. So a lot of our FlexPass members will even have an office member who work remotely for their company that is not local or has chosen to close their actual physical office and let their employees, which is kind of the new way of how we work, choose where we want to work.
Gotcha.
And that hybrid model, whether it's from home or giving the team members the ability to choose, has been actually a blessing in the co-working industry, because they have a space that they can come in and feel more productive at than maybe their house or coffee shop.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how you first got there was you were a client of that and in that space, right?
Right. So with my social media agency, KC Creative, I was a member at first. In fact, for all the people in the financial industry, I still pay my co-working membership. That was an important thing for me to make sure that I was still doing that for finance wise. But I started there, and some people have heard my story and others haven't. And I don't know how much of my story, besides what we chatted about a little bit before our meeting today.
Yeah, that was mostly
our conversation.
what I know.
Yeah. So 16 years of my life, I worked in hospitality. So hotels and event venues. Started what we call on the operations side, or started as a front desk agent and moved my way up into leadership, and then eventually sales and marketing for hotels and event venues.
Okay.
That was all I knew. In high school, I was taking hospitality classes at Amity High School, which back when I went to school there was one of the rare high schools in the state of Oregon that actually offered hospitality and tourism college classes in school.
Interesting. Shout out Warriors.
Yeah, Warrior Nation. But that was what I was going to do. That was my career. And honestly, it was an amazing 16-year career. And then the pandemic hit and everybody stopped traveling. Everybody stopped having events. And then I lasted almost a year. So let's see, we kind of officially shut down March, and I lasted all the way through July 27th of 2020. I know my exact last day of physically being at the office. And I kind of went home. I got a phone call saying you're not coming in the next day. Unfortunately, we tried to keep you on as long as we can, but people are still not having events and they're still not traveling. And I went home and I locked myself in my bedroom and I cried. And I probably locked myself in there for 24 hours. My husband would open the door just a little and check in on me and make sure I'm okay. And
wow, I don't know if I have personally met or talked to someone that was in that industry. Being in insurance and back when all that stuff was happening, and back then I was primarily just doing commercial insurance, business insurance. Now we do a lot of it. It was a blend of both. There were some businesses that actually did more business because of the pandemic, and I mean construction has boomed.
Real estate.
Landscape, like people were remodeling their house, redoing their yard, like but then there was other industries that were just hammered.
That we, for a long time, got zero help for. And think of the gig industry. All of our friends who provided services to the hospitality and events world that were getting no support from the government during this. So DJs, event photographers, florists, all these people that their lives and their business survived off of those type of events and functions. And there was really no unemployment for it. There was no pandemic assistance. In fact, actually, they just this year, I don't know the exact grant or loans, but they just opened up another round just for that industry because it was something that was just forgotten. We were forgotten. The events industry was forgotten about. And it was really hard.
I'm picturing you crying in your room. Like I'm picturing, hey, your type of job doesn't exist now.
It was non-existent. And for me, it was a loss of my identity, actually. A lot of people think of hotels and event venues as the frontline staff. So when you say I work in a hotel, you think of maybe housekeeping, or you think of restaurant staff, or you think of front desk agents. And trust me, they are, all those positions are the blood, the heart, the center of a hotel. And if it wasn't for those positions, leadership wouldn't have a job. But I was 6 figures in the industry. And I went from being the main provider in our family to earning 6 figures to the next day earning nothing. And that was hard. So I had to think, I had to pivot. And in fact, you've had Jacob Espinoza on here. Jacob was an amazing community member who immediately reached out to me and was just like, how can I help? So shout out to Jacob. He was fantastic during that time. I had a lot of amazing individuals from my hospitality industry during that time to those that I've met through the Chamber of Commerce. But we had a scheduled vacation, my family and I did, the following week after I got that phone call that I wasn't coming into work. And I was put on furlough, unpaid furlough. Okay. Which, long story short, lasted 18 months. Actually, my furlough ended just this year.
And furlough, I've never been on that. What, like, hey, you're not fired, but we're not paying you. Like, you might come back. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, and they have a legal obligation to either call you back or end your employment or have a conversation with you, but they cannot fill your position.
Gotcha.
During your entire. And I'm not a lawyer, so there might be more to it.
Yeah.
But during the entire time of your furlough, your position cannot be replaced.
Okay.
So that's the extent of it. I was still able to get benefits that I had to pay for. So I still had my medical benefits, but I still had to pay my portion of it, even though I had no income.
Okay. So you were technically still employed by that company, institution, but not getting paid.
Correct.
Okay. And that lasted for 18 months?
Yes.
Okay.
I qualified for unemployment, but we'll get to my story of not wanting to be on unemployment and kicking myself off of it.
Okay.
So yeah, I really thought, should we really be going on vacation the following week? It was just to Central Oregon, which is beautiful. Love Eagle Crest. We already paid for the hotel, but there was a lot of extra things that we were going to do there that we hadn't paid for. But everybody was like, no, this is what you need. You still need to go on vacation. Maybe it'll give you some clarity and time to just think. And my dad went with us on vacation. I have an amazing relationship with both my parents. They're divorced. My mom doesn't live locally. So dad went on vacation with my husband and I and my 2 kids. And on one of the days, we were there for 7 days. On one of the days, my dad and my husband took the kids out and gave me an entire day just back at the cabin to really think about who I was, who I wanted to be, what my next move would be. And that is when on August 4th, 2020, so just a few short days after I was told you can't come into work the next day, I put a business plan together. And I basically told myself to buck up, like, you can do this. This isn't the end of the world. What skills did I have that I could immediately start making money from on my own? Because I knew the events and hospitality world was going to be a couple years. It's still recovering. It is not where it used to be. And so I started KC Creative. While I was in Eagle Crest, I registered for my LLC with the state and the IRS, and created my business plan, created my marketing plan, created my logo just using Canva, announced a coming soon post on my personal pages, and was excited for something finally. Like, I had something to look forward to. And I knew I couldn't just walk around in self-pity the entire time. My kids needed mom there. My husband needed me to be present and not think about all the bad things that just happened. You know, I was in charge of taking all the cancellations for the past year of the event center that I worked for, and all the negative conversations that I had to have, and just day after day of negativity, and I was bringing it home. And so finally I had something exciting that I could move forward with. And I remember the feeling when I announced coming soon of the first inquiry, as you know, I started my business. And in fact, she's still a client to this day. But she actually wanted me to work as a W-2 employee for their company to do their social media. And I said, hey, I haven't announced exactly what I'm doing yet, but would you rather hire me as a 1099 contractor? Because this is my plan. You know, I'm going to have a social media management company. And she said, yes. And that's all I needed to hear. Okay, I'm doing something right. And I have found a need, and they're a restaurant and their doors were closed. And so they were only doing takeout. So they needed to do something different than what they've done in the past. And that was really push hard on their social media. And it just went from there, people reaching out, knowing my story or referring me to others. And that's how I was able to grow KC Creative and move it really towards social media management instead of just consulting.
When you were on the vacation and, you know, thinking about all this stuff, what are the things, because these are some of the questions that are not questions, but people will say, like, this is what I really want to hear your guests talk about. Like, what was really driving your motivation, or what feelings were there? Like, was it, I want to get back to the 6-figure income? Was it, I just want to do my own thing and be like, what really drove you in that direction?
The majority of my drive was survival. Figuring out, I just bought a really expensive Suburban not too long ago. How am I going to make the payment on that? We have a house payment. My husband we live off of also his disability income, but we didn't have to worry about money. You know, I had an amazing career. And then all of a sudden we did have to worry about money. And we were blessed with a savings. Not everybody had that. But it was definitely, how are we going to pay our next bill? Okay, we're going to have to dig into savings. So it was survival. My motivation, and then also our son has type 1 diabetes, and medical is expensive. I have spent plenty of time advocating at our Capitol for insulin affordability. So I knew I was finally in that struggle. Like, I was advocating for others, but now, realized that advocacy was also for us in this time of need. And, insulin isn't cheap, and supplies for his care isn't cheap. And just making sure that we don't lose the roof over our head or anything like that. It was survival. But then I also knew, like, my emotion is built off people's emotion. And I have this like innate ability to feel a room when I walk into it, or somebody's like energy level. So if I'm putting myself around other people who are excited for me or who say you can do this, then that drives me. And so when I shared my post shortly after I decided to buck up and stop crying about losing my career, and all these amazing people that I've connected with saying, you've got this, I have no doubt, whatever you choose to do, like, you can do it. So that was my drive. And then once I realized, and then it kind of changed, right? So then, which I think COVID taught a lot of us is, and we talked about a little bit, like, you can live on less and be just as happy or happier. And what it did teach us is, yes, we absolutely can. So yes, I am wanting to grow my social media management agency. And 2021 was an amazing year of growth for KC Creative. I also learned that we can live on less and actually plan for a vacation instead of just saying, hey, let's go, because I used to be able to, because we had more funds to spend. So it humbled us. And I used to care what others thought of how I looked and what I drove, hence the beautiful Suburban I have, which now all I think of is it's beautiful, but a high payment, right? And I'm like, next year it's going to be paid off. But that's just the reality of it. And the keeping up with the Joneses, I was so into that. And not so much anymore. It just humbled us. For sure. My husband is a humble person. It humbled me more.
Well, I mean, you were used to a certain lifestyle and standard and whatnot. And I mean, who could have ever imagined this would happen? I mean, I don't think anyone could ever be like, yeah, everything's just going to stop for a while. Do you think you would have ever left that industry and tried to start your own thing?
No. And this is a common question that people ask me all the time. I still have a deep love and passion for that industry, but it showed me how vulnerable it can be. I love people, and I love human connection, and I loved everything that I learned from the hospitality industry. And most of the people who were my leaders, I still talk to today and credit them for my development. I tried the whole college thing. Like, it was not for me. And maybe this is something new that people are learning of me, because I feel like I do give off a fantastic professional presence. I am knowledgeable. I am confident. And a lot of people assume I was raised with wealth and went to college, but it wasn't that way. Hospitality in that industry shaped me. My peers or my teachers in high school shaped me, as well as just my drive to always want more and to succeed in everything I do. Maybe it's anxiety and a little bit of perfectionism as well, which my son now has, which is a struggle, but I see myself in him too. But my dad was a welder, and my mom a secretary, and they did an amazing job raising me. I wasn't raised with money. Like, what I earned is what I earned, or what I have is what my husband and I have have purchased on
Yeah.
our own without asking for help. But
Yeah.
I don't even know where the original question was, and the
Well,
conversation just
yeah,
went there.
I mean,
But if I didn't lose my job, I would still be in the hospitality industry. That's
yeah,
where we
that
were.
was the question.
Yeah, I have this love for and a passion for helping people. In fact, one of our taglines was at a hotel I worked at in Pennsylvania, which is like a whole nother story because my husband was in the service. But their tagline was a passion to make a difference. And it gave me clarity when I was working at that hotel because I said to myself, yes, this is exactly who I am. I'm passionate about making a difference in other people's lives. And that's what you do every day in hospitality. People check in a hotel for multiple reasons. For business, because they're there for an event, a wedding, a celebration, their house caught on fire, they're escaping domestic abuse. And we see and we connect with these humans every day. A hotel is open 24 hours a day. You see and hear these stories, and it takes a certain type of individual to work in that industry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's easy to think about a hotel being like, oh, it's just a hotel. But when I really think about that side of things, like, man, the stories that you could probably tell, or
could write a book.
or the people that you meet, or all the different reasons people are at hotels. Yeah, that would be. I mean, I've never thought about being in the hospitality industry, even though I do like people. I don't know if I'm built to deal with all the different type of people that come in there, or the different demands or whatnot. But yeah, because you got to deal with everything. You have no idea who's really walking through the doors, or their attitudes or wants, or.
And you have to, that's just what I said earlier, and I'm not sure if we captured it on the live or if it was just us chatting, but hospitality is something you can't train. You are born with it or you're not. And in the hotel world, you have to say yes to everything. So how are you saying yes to the no? And it's very strategic, and it really comes from the heart and the compassion that you have towards others. And so taking that and using that experience and putting it into my everyday life, and being the optimist. My husband, I think, gets a little bit frustrated with me because I'm always an optimist. And even though, yes, I cried for like 24 hours, I'm like, okay, what can we do? Like, how are we going to make this better? You know, thinking about the positive. And maybe that's just what has kept me going through as I face adversity, you know, throughout the years.
I mean, Alicia was the last person that sat there. Apparently, Alicia, you left lipstick on the microphone.
She did. It was pink and beautiful.
Okay. But that's kind of like, if you watch or listen to hers, was she's just like, things happen and I'm just going to take them on, and it's happening for a reason. I'll learn something from it. I'll keep pushing through it. And you know, that's usually the people that are winning or having success. That's usually one of the common mindsets, is regardless of, because you know, you're going to have obstacles with having your own business. It's not all just easy, and not everyone's just rich because they're a business owner, and the line's never just straight. But having the mindset of, well, I'll tackle it anyways, and I'll figure something out, which COVID, I mean, for a lot of us, forced us to pivot, to figure. I don't know who could say they weren't affected in some way from it.
Right.
Or I look at things a little differently, or what do I really, I mean, like we were talking before, like, what do I really want to do? Like, what, you know, like, what do I really want to do? What legacy do I want to live? What do I want to wake up and do each day? You know, you could have had all the money in the world back then, but you were still limited I mean, yeah, you probably could do a few more things than us normal people, but like it just really showed you like, well, what's really important. And so, yeah, but that mindset of I'll overcome it. It's just another obstacle. But I do like talking about what are the practical steps, that you took. What was that? What, you're saying like, I made this post and the first feedback I got, wow, like that gave me a lot of energy and momentum of, all right, this is telling me something. I'm going to keep going in this direction.
It still does. And last week I did a post, a very vulnerable post, and we forget that we're human and people actually watch us and follow us, and they just see the perfect side of us because that's what we post on social media, all the good. And I was just really feeling down last week. So posting helps for two reasons. It makes you actually look like you are a human and relatable. But two, it's also a way for you to just vent, but just share your thoughts and emotions, just like a podcast would or any other platform. And, business has been slow. And I don't know if it's the economy. People are being tighter I used to get inquiries all the time. And I'm still getting inquiries and I'm still putting out proposals, but they're not turning to contracts like they were. And so I sent out this one proposal that I spent like 3 weeks on. I kid you not, because it was one that I had to pull in as a creative, what we call white label service. So I don't do something with social media. So I'm going to hire another individual or agency to do that part, but put it under my name.
Okay.
For those that don't know what white label is.
Well, it's funny you say that because I've had someone on here. I referenced him out there, and he just made a post yesterday, and I already kind of knew that he was going to do this, but he's starting his own marketing agency. And because people said, oh, cool, what is that? What are you doing actually? Blah, blah, blah. And he wrote something about white label, and I'm hanging out with him and his wife in a few days, but I was going to ask him, what does that mean?
That's what it means. It's basically like you contract their service, but you put it under your own business name.
Okay.
Even though you may physically not do it in-house.
Okay.
So I pulled all this together. It was an amazing contract. It would have been probably the largest financial, like month-to-month retainer for my marketing business. And I presented it to their corporate team, not even local in Oregon. Very exciting. Then I went to a convention, met like the CEO of the company, which it intersects with my past career, hospitality, because I want to get back into doing marketing for the hospitality industry. So I was so excited. I'm putting a face to the name. He kept coming by my booth. I'm like, I got this. Like, he was checking in with me. And then I get the email last week. Sorry, you didn't make the cut. I'm like, ugh. I was kind of relying on that financially because business had been slow, and really pumped my team. I have a team. They're contractors. A couple are local. One isn't. Like, getting so excited, and like, I didn't post about it on social media as far as the excitement for it beforehand.
Yeah.
But in my peer group, definitely told them about it. So I asked, like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Because I was the only agency that I know of in the area with hospitality experience, worked in the industry. So I felt like I had it. And they're like, well, you're a few factors, but the major one was you were too expensive. But I'm pretty true to my value and my services that I offer. And one of them I had to white label, so I had to mark it up a little bit more. So at first I was like, everything that goes through my head is, maybe discount.
Yeah.
But then I had to remind myself, no, I value my work. I value my team's work. And in order order to grow, I have to be true to my services, and all my other clients are paying this price, but not this particular service that they were asking about because I had to white label it. But yeah. And I was so down on myself. I was kind of grumpy. I was bringing it home. Like I haven't had that in a long, I was so used to people just signing those contracts.
You were so used to winning.
I was so used to winning, and it humbled me for sure. And then I had to look, I just had 3 discovery calls. So like 3 prospect phone calls earlier that day. And all I was focusing on was the negative.
Mm-hmm.
And then today I have 1 discovery call and another one tomorrow. So I have them coming in, but all I was focusing on was the negative.
Yeah.
And I was so hard on myself, and I was grumpy with the people around me.
Yeah.
And I said, that's not who I am.
Yeah.
It was a learning moment.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so I posted all about it, and then I fed off the energy because it reminded me once again, I have this amazing community that no matter what stage I am at with my personal or professional life, like they are there supporting me. And yes, I know we're talking about business stuff too, but they've always been there supporting me. So yeah, vulnerability, post. Sometimes we go back and forth on whether or not we want to share, but sometimes it's a good thing to share with our community and the struggles that we're going through.
It's amazing how easy it is to focus so much on the loss. Like when we could be having so many wins, I think like, I don't know, maybe it's a skill, like to try to learn how to focus. I know for me, most of my adult life, I have focused more on what I didn't have than what I did. And I heard all these positive people say and to be honest, I used to be a guy that was like, whatever, they're just saying that. And now as I'm trying to shift how I see things and my attitude and whatnot and not focus on what other people are doing, I'm going to do this podcast. I'm going to just be me. And I'm starting to buy into some of that stuff and see how, I would focus on that loss and totally disregard all these other wins, as opposed to just really appreciating those wins and the loss. Like there's so many different reasons why it could have not shook out your way. I mean, sometimes you'll never know, maybe the CEO's brother sent a proposal that you'll never, and like he was getting the job no matter what. Like you have no idea. Or maybe it's like not right now. And next year you pick them up as a client. Or I think that's one thing for anyone watching, listening, going into sales, or maybe struggling right now with sales. It's just part of it. It's just part of it. You're going to usually lose a lot more, to be honest, especially early on as you're learning and growing and stuff. There's going to be lots of losses, and there'll always be losses. You're not winning everything, but continuing to push through. And like what you're saying, like you were like, well, I'm going to make a post and I'm just feeling this kind of way. And then sounds like you got some encouragement from that and just being authentic. Because anyone that's been in sales knows exactly how you were feeling that day.
Yeah. And it's not just, I love sales, and normally I'm really good at it. And that was really hard. And especially because my sales pay our bills.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur or business owner, if you don't make a sale or if you don't have a flow of business, what are you paying your, how are you going to support your family or et cetera? Where is the money going to come in? And I was just at that darkest point where even though I have retainer clients, I'm thinking this isn't going to sustain us. And you are meeting soon with my friend Ellen But I reached out to her, and it's really hard to ask for help. And she's creative, and she texted me. So I have a women's group, and we meet monthly. And we get vulnerable with each other and talk about struggles and how we can help each other. And I didn't share my loss with the group until the next day is when I did my post. But she like read between the lines. Like she knew I was struggling. And I think at like 10 p.m. at night, she texted me and said, "What's going on? Do you want to meet up tomorrow or Friday?" This was last week. And I said Friday, as I'm like, she doesn't know I'm like crying as I'm texting her back, just thinking like, how am I supporting my family? Like when you go through I can't financially support my family, it kind of is like, I'm a failure. Like, am I worthy? You have some imposter syndrome. Does nobody like me? Like, what happened? And again, you go down that like negative path. And my husband's asleep in bed next to me as I'm like crying and texting at the same, him not knowing at all what is going on because I'm just holding it all in. But yet somebody reached out because they noticed, and that's a true friend. And so then I opened up because again, I know I'm not the only person going through this, and I felt like I needed to share that. And so Ellen and I met at French Press for coffee on that Friday. So that was Wednesday night when I was texting and crying. Like, how am I going to support my family? I'm a failure. What did I do wrong? And then Friday, she sat with me and we figured out what I'm passionate about, which we've talked about, which is hospitality, even though I don't want to go back and work in the industry. But how can Casey Creative, how can my social media company help that industry? And we literally put an entire plan together for this new service that I announced I offer. But asking for help or accepting help was the first step that I needed to take in order to get myself out of this rut. And if anybody is learning anything from today, it is okay to ask for help and it is okay to accept an offer of help.
So, the lipstick lever from last time, so her episode just came out. I put it out last night. She worked in a salon for many years, and then she owned a salon for 4 or 5 years, and then she didn't. And then she started another one, Max and Rowe. And she's killing it these last 4 years. But when I asked her, so why did you have one and it didn't really work? And why do you have one now and it seems like it's crushing? And if I remember right, the first thing she said was, well, on the first one, I didn't really think I needed to ask for help. And then she spoke about how she's got some different mentors in her life now for different areas of the business and whatnot. But I'm pretty sure the first thing she said of what came to her mind when the first one didn't work was, I didn't ask for help.
And this is why women fail at this, because we want to be known as the multitasker, the one who does it all. We can manage a household. Yes, we can operate a business. Yes, we can take on 50 new clients just by yourself. But really, can we? Like, in the long run, how is that affecting us if we feel like we can do it all? Women are portrayed as like the superwoman, especially if you're a mom who owns a business, like your own business. I feel like there's even higher standards. I mean, we see it all on social media, and we see each other, saying, oh my God, you're such a superwoman and such a super mom. And then there's the Pinterest mom, right? And like, yeah. And then the last thing we want to admit to is that we can't do it. We can't do it all.
Yeah.
This morning I was thinking, oh God, everybody has all their cute fall decor out on their front porch. And I still have water shoes that have collected cobwebs from some river adventure probably 3 months ago still on our front porch. And that was this morning, actually, that I was thinking of that.
I bet you there's so many people listening right now or watching, laughing, being like, yo, I got the same thing on my porch.
Yeah. And thinking, yeah, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
There is other things that I need to worry about.
Yeah.
And trying to be this perfect woman because society has portrayed us to be this perfect woman can be stressful. And like I said, like only until this last year and a half have I asked for help in my personal and professional life. And being a football coach's wife, like I do not have help from basically 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 p.m. at night. And then on game nights, it's even longer. And so try to operate 2 businesses, attend as many community functions as you can. You can't quite afford daycare for before and after school care. So you're still picking up the elementary school student and you're still making Zoom calls and you're still attending podcast conversations and you still have gymnastics that you got to get your child to twice a week, but also still be present for your spouse who's coaching. So yes, I still went to the JV football game on Monday, even though he coaches varsity because it's a Warrior Nation and you support the entire program. And yes, I'll still drive to Newport, Oregon on Friday night to watch a football game. There is so much pressure. And then when I post all the pictures, it makes like I'm doing it all. But deep down inside, you're struggling. So yes. So Ellen, in my whole vulnerability with her on Friday, she's like, and what else is going on? Like, business I get, okay. But like, so I went, oh my God, like I'm trying to pick up Isabella and trying to take her there. And I've got an appointment over here. She goes, well, I can pick up Isabella if I need to, or Dustin can, her fiance, right? I'm like, you would really do that? You know, and it, admitting to the fact that it is okay. We have no family, for those that don't know.
Gotcha.
We have no family here in Salem.
Gotcha.
The closest is in McMinnville and then Carlton, but they're, you know, my sister is extremely busy and she lives in McMinnville. And my dad is busy in his retirement life of fishing.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
He lives an hour away. And so for that immediate need of, oh my gosh, I'm running late. Like I have nobody. We have nobody here in Salem. And only, like I said, up until really this year have I asked people for help. And it's a life changer. Yeah. And, you know, with Brody and his type 1 diabetes, we, you know, having to ask for help in that community too. Here's a vulnerable post, and maybe other parents of medically fragile children will understand this, where we got so crazy and in tune to our business world and our personal lives that we realized my son was out of insulin. This was like last week. Last week, everything happened, okay? He's completely out of, so he does pens. They're called insulin pens. And it's like a pre-filled needle. And we were out. We had none. He forgot to tell us, but as a responsible parent, we didn't realize. And it's like 9 p.m. at night as he's trying to go to bed. Pharmacy's closed. Well, I had vials of insulin, but then I still needed needles to pull the insulin from. And I had to ask our diabetic community like at 9:30 at night, and was able to get syringes so I can open a box of almost expired, a vial of insulin that we don't even use that type anymore, to be able to give my son insulin so he could survive. And I'm over here like, why did we not know that he was out of insulin? Like, why? It's because we put too much pressure on ourselves, like where we aren't even focusing on what really matters the most, and that's the well-being of our children. That I didn't even share with the public, that we ran out of insulin and I didn't even realize it as an adult. Like, insulin is what my kid needs to literally to not die.
And yet there's going to be people that listen and watch and they're like, I did that same thing, or I did something similar, and clearly you're not a bad parent.
No.
Clearly you're not, disregarding their, you would never want to do that.
We were looking around the house for old syringes to sterilize. I mean, that's what type 1s had to do back in the day anyways. I had everything I needed to sterilize a syringe. But we found some, and thank goodness.
Yeah.
But it was scary.
Yeah.
And for a moment felt like a failure.
Yeah.
But yeah, got it the next day, went to the pharmacy. Yeah, if it's not one thing, it's another. But it's a reminder to slow down, ask for help when needed, pay attention. We get a little bit consumed in building and growing our business that things fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
And it's okay, and it's natural, and it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And something else will happen again, or you'll forget something else. Or I think you women do a better job than us dudes, though, at supporting. Dudes never really want to say they're struggling, or dudes don't cry or show emotion or whatnot. But, a big layer of this podcast is to have some authentic conversations. And because that's the stuff that people can relate to. There's no one out there that's got it all figured out. It doesn't matter how much worth of the people that sit in that chair. There's been plenty of millionaires already sit in that chair. They all have struggles. And, that's what community is about. And, different people are going to fill different roles in that. But for whatever reason, this idea of not asking for help, or it'll make you look a certain way, or like Alicia said, I thought her first go around with being a business owner, I thought I should know everything already. But how would you? Like, how would you know everything? Which is why she didn't want to ask for help. I thought I should know everything. But yeah, like my wife, she's the backbone. Okay. Like, other than you, everyone else kind of knows who I am so far. Jason, she thought you were interviewing her today.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe I'll do some more stuff of me. And
he does a great job of hiding behind the podcast.
I have been purposely hiding a bit. But like, my wife is the backbone, and, she's what is allowing me to chase these dreams. And, a lot of people will never meet her, never really be around her. But even she has felt like, maybe I should be doing more, or I should, and yet I'm like, and that's why I'm always going to like tell this is a part of my story. I would not be doing this without her. There's no way. I couldn't pull it off. I could not pull this off on multiple, not just financially. She's my biggest cheerleader with all this stuff. And even, at times she has felt like I should be doing more. Or, she'll see you ladies out there posting and she's like, I should have my own business and all this kind of stuff. And, and yet I'm like, no, like, you're a huge part of everything I'm doing. You will come along with me no matter where this goes. You will be a part of that. And the idea of like, we should all have it all figured out or know how to, like, no, nope, we shouldn't. And we can ask for help. And it's amazing when you do. Like, one thing is incredible is, like, people want to help. In general, people want to be helpful. And I don't know why we don't think that. Like, you're like, Ellen, you'd really like pick my kid up, you know? And she's probably thinking like, yo, that's not a huge thing. Like, you're acting like you're asking me to move a mountain. I'm just picking them up. Like, you know, but for us, like that ask is like, oh my God, like really? But people want to help, you know, and giving people the opportunity to help, you know, maybe, you know, you never know what's going on in their life. They might be like, I would love to go pick up this kid and maybe have a conversation with the kid during the car ride. I don't know her at all, but like, you know, maybe that's something she would really enjoy. You know, so even giving people the opportunity to help out. I'm sure you like helping.
Yeah.
Right?
I love helping. Yes, absolutely. It is fun for me to help them and to like bless somebody. And then getting that in return is hard.
Well, I do think it's harder for the people that really like to accept it though. I do think that, like, which is ironic, that a strength of yours, you would then kind of think might not be a strength of someone else, or you don't want to ask them. And yet if they asked you, you would be all about it. But I think in general, most people, I mean, who doesn't like to feel like they're helping out or they did a solid for someone? But yeah, there's definitely, I don't know, maybe it's just will always be for all of eternity that you're not really supposed to ask for help. But I don't know why that is though. I don't really, I don't know.
It could be generational. I know I look at my parents. I have older parents for my age because they had me at almost 40. But they're the generation. Well, we didn't ask for help. We did this all ourselves.
That is true.
And it, you know, and generations change, right? Like just like fashion, we're seeing the 90s back again. Okay. And I feel because of the way, and I love my parents, the way that they raised me, I feel like, well, they did it all on their own. They told me I'm not gonna buy, like my parents didn't buy me my first cell phone. They didn't even buy me my first car. I had to do it on my own or find a way. Right.
Yeah.
And that was the mindset of that generation. They're both, 73 and 74. You do it. And if you can't do it, then you just don't do it, or you don't get it. If you can't afford it, you just don't get it. And only buy new, you know, so it lasts forever. It is, I believe, a lot of how we were raised. And I was raised by very blue collar, hard-working parents who earned every dollar that they made, and they themselves were not given hand-me-downs or handouts, I should say. Definitely probably hand-me-downs because they were both, you know, the older siblings, but they weren't given handouts. And does Grandpa love spoiling his grandkids? Absolutely. But when it comes to things like bills and, you know, that's our responsibility because you're a grown adult. And that's the mindset. And so we take that and, well, no, I'm not going to ask for help. I'm a grown adult. I need to be able to figure this out. That's just how I was raised. And there could be definitely others who are raised, you know, with the same mindset, but definitely generational. Whereas now I feel like as a parent, I do have that mindset a little bit, but also, you know, last year my son wanted, this year too, but wanted to earn money in the summer, and he was only 12 last year. So I made him, you know, pitch a big 10 by 10 tent in our driveway. We loaned him like $20 to buy sodas and water. So and then paid us back. He sold those during the summer on the side of our street. And then he washed cars as well. This year he wanted to buy the Oculus, right? And made them do the same thing, both of the kids. And they came in, now that we own the co-working studio, they came in and cleaned and worked and earned money. But I still find that they have everything that they want or need because we give that to them, which I wasn't given growing up. But yeah, it's just all how we were raised.
And I almost feel like that message it's just been a little like not mixed, but like even if you ask for help or advice, you still have to go do the work, right? So the older generation, they're still right. You still have to go do the work. This day and age, we're so much more connected than they were anyways. I mean, it's not, how do you even compare iPhones and Instagram, and we're so connected. And so they're still right with that part. Like, no one's going to go do your work for you. But I feel like that was coupled with, oh, that means I don't ask for help. And that's not what it means. You still got to do the work.
Yeah.
I could give you the best advice in the world, but if you don't go do the work, it ain't going to work. But I think that was carried over with that idea of like, oh, well, I should just know how it all works. And it's like, no, does like, like, I don't know, like if I want marriage advice, I probably want to talk to someone that's been married for a while. Like, they're doing it. They're, which, we talked earlier, and I've kind of been like, I don't know how much, like, there's certain things I do feel qualified to talk about. If you want to talk about marriage, I think I have a pretty freaking good marriage. I think I could probably give some good advice on that. There's other things where I go, yeah, I've done a little bit of that. I've really been thinking about like the conversation a lot of what I'm trying to have with people is actually more about their failures than their successes. And recently it has dawned on me that, because I think I relate to that more. I think I've had way more failures, and maybe that, like, I'm talking about what I know, I guess. I've heard Gary Vee say, like, and different people say, like, if you're going to do all this, like, talk about what you know. Don't try to be someone else, or talk about what you know. And I've really been thinking about like what this is morphing into. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I've had a failed marriage. I've had bankruptcy. I've had a house foreclosed on. I've had businesses that, did get into the multi-millions and then crashed and was nothing. Now I'm rebuilding some businesses. But I'm like, you know what? I got a lot of failures. And, so that's, I think just innately, like, that's what I'm talking about. I know about that. But most people do. Most people can, I told Alicia when she made a joke about something, and I was like, yo, if you have all the answers, then we won't even talk about the failures. You tell us. How does everything work? But no one does. No one ever will. There'll always be struggles and challenges to talk about. And making, this kind of stuff is like promoting that it's okay to talk about it. There'll be more podcasts. Sounds like you might. Do you want to talk about that? I don't know if that's.
Yeah, no. It's kind of, you said something that like triggered something in my brain, and I forgot about it, but it reminded me of trying to do all the things and wearing all the hats when you're only just one person. And yes, I have a group of these amazing women that I've kind of created, and we meet monthly now. And we started around my campfire last year. There was 13 or 15 of us. I can't remember. And I have a private Facebook group, and there's over 100 of us now. And my whole reason for doing that, much like how you're doing this, kind of has morphed, but I've let it organically grow into what it is, of being just women, female business owners, like female entrepreneurs who need a safe space to connect and be their true authentic self while learning from one another. And it's up to them on how vulnerable they want to be and how much information they want to share. But we meet monthly, and it's amazing how much we are alike than what we thought before. With struggles and family and business struggles. But yeah, I want to create, I want to create a podcast where I can get these women on and share. I haven't pulled the trigger yet because there are other things that I need to focus on. Yes, do I want to monetize this group and create it into a membership and grow it? Yes, and that will be probably sooner than the podcast. But I feel through past failures of all the different ideas that come into my head with my business that I really just need to focus on one thing or two and be really good at them.
Yeah.
So we have a co-working member. His name is Alex. Hey, Alex, if you see this, he only comes up. He lives in California, but he has family in town.
Okay.
He also owns like a digital marketing type agency. But he had a boss or a leader tell him, which he then shared with me. And sorry if I cuss. I'm not a cusser, but this quote includes a curse word in it. And he said, you're either going to half-ass something or you're going to full-ass it. So you're either going to put like half your heart into it or you're just going to put your everything into it.
Yeah.
And I'm not there yet of putting my everything into my podcast because I need to full ass the current business structures that I have right now and get them where they need to be able to go all in on, my podcast. So,
Yeah.
or in my women's group.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great advice. I'm sure I'll post a clip with that, Alex, and put it on LinkedIn because that's where you hang out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, we learn so much by the people that we surround ourselves with. And so I really took that to heart. So as much as I do, this is another vulnerable thing. I have a really hard time with comparing myself to where other ladies are at in their business. And the saying, like, don't compare your chapter 5 to somebody else's chapter 10. And
It's way easier said than done.
it is so much. And in fact, I'm going to go back to Ellen. I used to be really like, oh my God, she's so influential. Well, she is. She's amazing.
Yes.
Has all these followers, does all this amazing stuff, makes all this money. And I used to be envious. And I'd find myself saying, oh, I could never be like that. And then it turned into, oh God, she's amazing. Like, look at what she's done. Look at how she's growing. Look at how her business can influence mine in a better way. And then it just has turned into a friendship. But I do that with other people locally. And I have to stop myself because then it's just like another business idea. Oh, well, I need to be doing this because they're doing this. And then I forget about all the amazing, successful things that I have currently going on. And so, yeah, it's like that squirrel moment. And then I have to align myself back up to being humble and being where I need to be currently and not judging myself. The best thing I did actually was stop following a bunch of influencers on social media because it was really tampering with my brain and my mental health. And now I'm very strategic on who I follow. So when people tell me that they follow Gary Vee, I'm like, sure, if you had like $1 million and like a crew of 10 that just follow you around everywhere and video you and take content and write out your quotes and record every single thing that you do, follow him. But don't say, I want to be him. Because you're you. And it takes a long time. Success doesn't happen overnight to get to the Gary Vee level. Yes. Does he have amazing nuggets of information to take from and learn from? Absolutely. I follow him on LinkedIn because it's just too much for my brain on Instagram because he posts like 50 times a day.
I just started following him last week and I've sent him some random messages because he answers sometimes random messages. But the moment I started following him, I was like, yo, there's like 5 posts right in the, like, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I'm,
And so, I see it on LinkedIn and that's good enough for me. And, because I knew the boundary that I had to set with certain influencers or else I'd consume myself with trying to be like them. So,
which one of the ones I've watched of him is him saying, don't do that. Be you, be you. I mean, and that's definitely a common theme through this podcast is like, yo, just be you. I mean, I'm finding that right now in this podcast. I look at other podcasts. I got a few that I like, but I'm like really trying to take that advice, really trying to take it It's easy to say, but you know what? Just be you. I'm going to talk how I talk and have the setting that I have and, have the conversation that is being had. And then if people dig it, cool. And if it grows, cool. But most of my adult life, I definitely looked around and it made me stagnant. And I've said it before. I said it to Alicia, and other people. I got a circle of friends. It seems like they're all at the top of their industry right now. And I'm like, why does it take me 40 years to finally figure out, like, okay, so I'm gonna be a podcast person. But I'm like, this is my jam. I like talking to people. I like talking about meaningful things. I really do. That's what gets me going. Like I always tell people, tell me something that matters to you, and then you have my attention. And maybe there's a reason it took so long for me to figure this out. I'm going to talk to a lot of different people on the scale of whatever scale you want to use. And I think I can relate to all of them. I've been high and low and everywhere in between. And I just really like that conversation, the relatability. When me and Jason were together Monday night, and he was sharing some cool stories since his episode was out, and a new kind of friendship that he has. And we were talking about the relatability factor and how it makes you human. So people are seeing your posts, but they don't know you, or they see your business, or, like Jason, he's 7 feet tall with a bunch of tattoos and has a basketball team. And you might not think you would relate to that dude. And then you listen and you're like, oh man, like I went through that, or I experienced that, or I've been depressed or whatever. And it makes you human. And a lot of these podcasts, like that's what it's doing. Like that's why it's working. That's why they're effective, because it's connecting people. People that are watching these are, man, I've experienced that. Or I think that, or I compare myself to Kara. I wish I could do what she's doing, and trying to acknowledge it and then work past it. Like with Ellen, had you just kept the mindset of envy and I could never be like that, you would have missed out on whatever your relationship is with her. You would have missed out on her being like, yo, you want me to pick your kid up? Had you just kept a distance, and rather than, you know what, like she's in a space that I'm in and that I want to be in and I want to grow, like I can learn something from you. And what's interesting is usually those people that are like at those places that you want to be at, if you ever like get to talk to them or get to know them, they will usually say, yo, I was there too. And then this person really inspired me, and I wanted to be around them. Ellen didn't have it all figured out always. I'm sure there's someone that has influenced her life or gave her advice, and whoever that person is didn't have it all figured out. And there was someone in that person's life. So no one, the hardest part is pushing past that jealousy, that envy, or that, well, I can't do it. And I'll talk with Ellen next week, but I'm sure when she got started, like she probably just didn't out of the gates think I could do this, this, and this, and I got it all figured. I'm sure she didn't feel that way. So yeah, I think that idea of asking for help, it's okay to ask for help. We all get envious. We all are comparing ourselves. Like, let's just be honest with each other. Like, we all do that in some sort of way. But then let's move past that. Let's work on that. Let's go towards that. I was just talking with someone yesterday and about who's been on the podcast and this, that, blah, blah, blah. And I made a comment about, that, I'll probably interview at some point some people I don't see eye to eye with, or maybe someone I don't really want to interview. But then he was like, that's why you should, man. Like that will make you grow. That, like, you might hear a perspective that you didn't really agree with, or maybe you just don't really like them as a person, but that's why you should do it. because you don't want to. Go towards that. And that's kind of what we're talking about is, and now like you've gotten to like know her and now you guys are friends, and wow, had you just kept that distance, I mean, I just met you today, and I don't know her, but I'm sure there's been a lot of stuff you guys have shared since, you know, you didn't run from that.
Yeah.
That has probably been very helpful and valuable. And I'm sure you've had value to her life as well.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
It is. It's a good reminder that you never know what somebody is going through until you know. And you may never know what somebody else is going through. And, you know, I just had, it kind of reminds me of, we still do have a lot of struggles with our teenager, and he can get violent and physically hit me or my husband. But I went and had lunch or dinner, I can't remember, a week or two ago with one of my friends, not local here. And she's going through something similar. And I told her I know what she's going through, but I've never shared it with anybody. I never shared that my son ran away 2 years ago from daycare and had the whole city of Salem Police Department looking for him. Never shared that. I've never shared the physical struggles of teachers having to clear a room for him because he was angry and violent. And so until you share that, like nobody can relate with you. And when I shared that with her, come to realize she hadn't shared that and hasn't been able to come to terms with the fact that they don't even know where to turn to for help for their child. And I think just her knowing that there is somebody else that has like that lived experience made her realize, okay, like I'm not alone in this. And the same thing goes for the type 1 diabetes world with like a newly diagnosed family. They feel like they're alone in it, but you're not. And it just makes you realize that there's somebody else that could be struggling just as much or more than you. And they will never know unless you share. And so sharing that with her of our experience with our kid made her realize, okay, we can do this and we can get through this. Yeah. There's a lot.
Yeah. Well, what haven't I asked you? I ask everyone this, or what do you want to share, or
I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot. I think the biggest thing is through all of this is try to figure out who you are and just be true to that. Like stop trying to be somebody that you're not. Stop trying to be somebody else. Focus and give yourself some clarity on who you are and where you want to be and where you need to be, not what society says as far as financially where you need to be. And the biggest saying, because this is going to be posted on social media, is we live too much in it, coming from a social media person. And that's that comparison. We see all these people who show that they're successful, and we only talk about the successes and how much money. And there are a lot of people who share how much money they make as far as their business goes, and because they want to be transparent with their audience. But if you're not in the right mindset in your business and in your personal self, that can damage you. And so really it's knowing your boundaries. We talk a lot about this in my women's group, is knowing your boundaries, whether it's your mental health or your physical or your relationships that you're currently in, whether it's with your spouse or friends or business community. But I think we didn't talk about boundaries a lot, but that setting boundaries can really help with everything that we've honestly just talked about today.
Yeah. I mean, that's been difficult in my life. I mean, I imagine most people's lives, especially people that are wired to help. and always want to be there, and always, the boundaries are huge, and only allowing things, so close or so far, or, I mean, even starting this, I've even kind of changed a little bit of my lifestyle, or where I was giving attention, because now I'm doing this so much and all the different things that are a part of that. Maybe I'm not out doing all the same stuff that I used to do. But going into this, I kind of knew, all right, this is going to take a lot of time, and I'm going to push at this thing really hard. And like I said, I'm about to open up a spot in Lake Oswego and start having some people in that area on. It just takes a lot of time. And so just putting in other boundaries for that, and being okay with that.
Even if you feel a little FOMO from other things, right? Like, what is within your capabilities, and, your time block of where you spend your time and who you're spending it with.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming by. It's good to meet you. It has been interesting meeting people for the first time ever in this setting for me. But I mean, I kind of can talk with anyone,
and maybe sometime we'll see you actually on the feed.
You'll probably be the reason that I actually do it. Like I said last week, I came here with the intentions to do it, but I just wasn't feeling well. No, just like yesterday or 2 days ago, I text my wife and Daniel, who does all the editing, and I was like, what if I start making little clips of myself for Instagram to start to introduce myself, and then also just kind of talk about the podcast a little bit? Like, I've had a million people say, what is it? All right, here's what it is. And that's a little clip, and just starting to introduce myself. And they said, yeah. And then you coming in, and I can't wait to tell Jason that.
Oh my gosh. I'll see him probably at Chamber Greeters on Friday. But when do you see him?
Well, I don't know when I'm going to. I saw him Monday just hanging out.
Yeah.
And I will come to a Greeters. Friday mornings, I'm usually taking my daughter to school, though, because it's at 8?
Yeah, it's 8:30, but of course you want to get there a little bit early for networking, because you can network at the end too, but it's like a scheduled program from 8:30 to 9:30, 9:45. It is hard. Trust me, I haven't gone in like the last month and a half, as I was adjusting from summer vacation and then getting the kids situated and back into the school routine.
Yeah.
I finally made it last week.
Yeah.
For a Friday. But it's hard. Daycare has changed over the last couple years, and people are being more picky with their money, and or just choosing to stay home and have more flex hours. So some of the events that I used to be able to go to, it's hard finding the time unless I bring little minions with me.
Yeah. No, I feel, I mean, for parents, it's just, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you coming by. I'm hoping you take Olga into your women's group, maybe even my wife. I mean, she's been meeting some of the people through this. Last night we were working at Lacey's gym. We're going back tonight. Actually, Olga as well. So even that's been kind of cool. We're starting to get to know some of these people off the court, if you will.
Yeah.
And those kind of relationships.
Well, I'd love to meet your wife and connect.
Yeah, she's, she's a little hustler, entrepreneur. She's always kind of like, maybe this or maybe that. And I'm like, you do have a full-time job being a teacher. She just got her admin license, so she's been applying a little bit to maybe be a principal. But that's a whole different beast in and of itself. And the time commitment with that. She's helping South Salem girls volleyball freshman team. She loves volleyball. But yeah, she's always kind of, looking for some women. I don't know. For me, like, I got my dudes. I got my different dude things. Like, I don't know. Maybe for dudes that has just come more natural. Yeah. And then, with women, I don't know. Maybe it has to be more intentional of you guys trying to.
Well, we have a fear of judgment too, and oh, I don't know what they're going to think of me. Are they going to like, like there's like a trillion things that go through our heads before we meet with another woman.
Yeah.
And it's sad that we feel that way.
Yeah.
But I will not feel that way meeting your wife.
You
So I would
won't.
love to connect with
No,
her.
you won't. No, Adrian's one of the best
Yeah.
there is. And, I had a friend of ours, I said this on another episode too, but recently I have a lot of people that will listen or watch these and then kind of give me their critique and whatnot, which is great. And this person actually had some good ideas, or hey, dig a little bit deeper on this, or I'd love to know this part of that question. But then this friend was like, Trav, just so you understand that Adrian's your secret weapon, right? Like, you're going to get a lot of the love because you're the face of this, but you understand that. And actually Adrian and we may do an episode together. Yeah, we've talked about something, and yeah, they'll start to get to know her a little bit.
That might morph into something else. You never know. Like couples in business together.
Like I said, if there's not very many things that I would probably toot my horn on and be like, yo, I'm pretty good at that, regardless of what people may tell you about me. But with our marriage, I think we have a pretty good, we have enough friends that are like, hey, hashtag relationship goals, you and Adrian. But it's a lot of work. There's a lot of that goes into that. But no, I've actually told her like, that might be a space that I would be interested in getting into, of a coupled thing. And
have you, and this is another one, have you followed so-and-so? Jer and Aubrey, they're from the Little People Big World show, and they have their own line of business called like the Beating 50%, like 50% of couples or whatever get divorced. And whether or not you go through that and then find, your true love in your second marriage or third, they have a podcast, and it is so fun.
Okay.
I don't listen to it a lot. I've definitely heard episodes. I used to follow them on social media and stuff, but they have like a couples podcast, a book together. And
actually, I met Adrian in California, and what's funny about that show is when she moved up here with me, that she loved that show. And I was like, they live here, right? Like, we can go to that farm. I know some things have changed and all that dynamic, but I was like, they're from here. So we had one pumpkin patch time. We went up there and got a photo, and she actually tracks. She might know what you're referring to. But yeah, no, that has been a space where I thought, you know what? I think, like, not that we're perfect, like, believe me, but I think we do, comparatively speaking, I think we do a pretty good job. And I've thought, but then I'm also nervous because I'm like, whoa, I don't want to be too boastful or too and mess up what we have going on, So I do insurance. I'm a risk advisor. My whole brain thinks about what are all the bad things that can happen. That's even part of like me pushing through this podcast of like, just do it, because I constantly think about what could go wrong. I'm not wired to think about what could go right. I am wired to think about what could go wrong, which I'm pretty good at insurance because I just think that way in general. What are the slip hazards when we go into this new building? Where are the exits at? And Adrian's like, I never think about that.
Yeah.
I would never think about where the exits are.
Yeah.
Where I sit, and I never sit with my back to people. When I go into a room, I'm usually like in a corner, or we go to restaurants. She knows exactly where I'm going to sit. And yeah, she's not wired that way. She's like, I would never think where are the other exits in this building right now. But no, we have kicked around that idea, and maybe that would be fun. And it's like anything else, right? I'm like, would anyone care? Would anyone listen? Does that conversation matter? And yet there's probably plenty of people out there
Yes,
making a living talking about that kind of stuff.
I know. Well, even after we interviewed today, here's my vulnerability, which I have to get going soon. But I'm sitting here as we're interviewing, like, is anybody even gonna find interest in what I have to say? Like, there I have it again.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I know somebody will, but
Yep.
I really appreciate you inviting me today.
Yeah.
And getting to know you more.
Yeah.
No idea. Drive by this space every day.
Yeah.
I've known Mike because we sit on a board together.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. You remodeled it. He's not in McMinnville anymore. And then it's you. You're the one that's here, not Jason Conrad.
I'm the guy.
Yeah, you're the guy.
No, Mike actually still has his office on
Oh, he
3rd
does?
Street in
Okay.
McMinnville. He did this because he has multiple employees here in Kaiser and Salem.
That makes sense.
But he still lives in Mac.
Awesome.
Mike's one of the greatest. I hate to say it, but he's one of the greatest humans there is. But yeah, thanks for coming by. Accept Olga, accept Adrian.
Yes,
And-
I can't wait to meet Adrian and for Olga to, I think she joined my Facebook group today. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And people will find, thus far, everyone we've done, the people go, hey, I got great feedback, or I learned something new, or, and that's, there have been people I've asked and they're like, well, who would want to listen to my story? There's someone out there. There's, someone cares. There's people in your life that care, or there might be people that don't know you that find something like, I relate to. And, even battling that stigma of would anyone even care, or would it be helpful, and it will be.
It will.
It is being helpful. So yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.